Hello, and welcome to Hope Ready. I'm your host, Dr. Ellen. On this episode today, I'm with Erin Schantz, who's a counselor at our Counseling and Psychological Services office right here on campus. Thanks for joining me today, Erin.
Sure. It's great to be here.
Today, we are going to have a chat about self-care amidst a global pandemic. And Erin, I want to just say, before the pandemic even began, I was maybe one of those people that was like, everybody's talking about self-care. What's the big deal? What is the point? What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's a term that people use a lot, and so it's sort of fuzzy and people don't even know kind of what it means. But when we talk about it in CAPS, we're really just talking about making sure that you take time to check in with yourself and really kind of give yourself a break. And give yourself a break kind of with time and time management, taking breaks, but also giving yourself a break like self-compassion, like knowing when you're probably being a little extra hard on yourself and a little giving yourself a little break would be really helpful for your health. So self-care is kind of taking time to attend to what you need so you don't burn out.
Do you think that there are people who could practice self-care so much that it actually starts to feel like they're just being a little lazy or self-centered?
Yeah, I think that's an idea that people have out there. Like, if I'm doing self-care, I should be doing something else. And so I think it's just important to remember that people need breaks. We can't be running ourselves at top speed all the time without our performance really suffering and feeling terrible, even having a physical toll on us if we're not careful. So what we're talking about is not the same thing as not being concerned about your performance and not only focusing on yourself. Really, when we're doing self-care right, when we time it right, it really helps us focus better, perform better, and and to have a little more of our own resources that we can share with other people. So if we're not emptied out of all of our energy and motivation because we've taken care of ourselves, we're better able then to share that with other people, be a little kinder to other people, a little more understanding too. So kind of has the opposite effect of helping, of making us lazy or self-centered.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So in this time of pandemic, when we're all doing something we've never done before,
Right.
what would some of the common building blocks of self-care be?
Yeah. So in CAPS, we're always reminding people about the really basic stuff that helps everybody be as healthy as possible. So if you hear any of these areas and those aren't kind of in place for you, making some adjustments in these areas is bound to help you feel better, more able to deal with everyday stressors, more productive at all the stuff that you want to do and need to do. So adequate sleep. So we're talking a good amount of sleep, not just enough sleep, a good amount of sleep to help with your memory, to help with your creativity. Enough and good nutrition. So we're talking fuel for your body and the right kinds of fuel for your body. Time with your support system. So family, if that's who that is, friends, but time with people who care about you so you can feel validated and important again. And time in nature, research has shown us is important for helping us feel better. So just getting outside, physical activity. So physical activity with the sense of just kind of relaxing. So if you are in a high physically taxing role, that may not necessarily be self-care in itself. We're talking even just walks. It doesn't have to be high intensity, but some physical activity. Time in your interests, doing the things that you enjoy, hobbies, finding a new hobby, trying something brand new, nurturing your spiritual life is another thing. All of those things, so sleep, nutrition, support system, time in nature, physical activity, interest stuff, and spiritual life is all just sort of the basic parts of a self-care routine that are important. So I think sometimes it's trying something new, like learning how to play the ukulele, or sometimes it's things like that you just know make you feel a little bit better. So when I am feeling really stressed in a season, for example, I like to go back and read stuff that I know. So I go back to like the Chronicles of Narnia and I reread those. Like they're familiar to me, they're deep, they're easy to pick back up, but they really kind of refresh me in a deep way.
That's cool. How do we make sure that we're not using some of these things as a way to just procrastinate on the work that we actually need to get done?
Exactly. So I think this is another place where self-care kind of gets discounted. People are like, "Yeah, I don't have time for self-care because it causes me more problems than it's good." Um, One way is just to be really uh, intentional about it. Have a plan for how this is going to actually help you. So if it's time with friends is great. You I don't say this very often, but you should make time with friends in your support system. It's good, it's healthy, it helps you. But know how much you need and know how much is enough and have a plan for it. So if you are planning to hang out with friends and you have no kind of plan for how to reel that back in and get back into the stuff you need to, what you're likely to run into is stretching out that time, and then it gets really awkward when it's gone beyond that hour you were hoping for and needed into the second or third hour. That can leave you with regret and frustration. And what we're looking for is, I've got an hour that I can afford and that I need today. I'm going to spend it doing this thing because that helps refresh me, helps me feel better. Um, and my plan is at this time, I need to go back to work, or I'll feel worse for having done this self care, which is just, yeah, counterintuitive. So, another example would be if you're binging like a TV show.
Yes.
It's okay. Like we can enjoy TV show, like watching something funny, for example, can really be helpful if you're going through a stressful time. But again, have a plan for how many episodes you're going to watch. Be really mindful and intentional about it. And after that second episode, which is all you kind of allowed yourself that day, have a plan for getting back into the work that you need to do. Um, uh, Otherwise, every time you hit like next episode, what you're really inviting is dread for getting back to the work, which again really um, gets rid of the positive benefits of this self-care that we were trying for.
Or if you get to the point where your device says, "Are you still watching?"
Right.
You've probably watched too long,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And probably invited some negative consequences, yeah,
Yeah,
instead of the
yeah,
self-care you
for
intended. So
sure. So, last question. What if the usual things that I do for self care are unavailable because we are in a global pandemic? What would you
exactly.
suggest?
Right. So it's not easy, and we are all figuring out how to live within this new world, like this pandemic life. So I would say, to if there's an activity that just isn't accessible to you for whatever reason, maybe executive orders, or just they're not open, or whatever, or you're in a new place and the thing you did back at home, you know, doesn't exist the same way here at Hope or in Holland, Michigan. I would just say reflect on what you get out of that activity, and maybe even go back to that earlier list. You know, is it time with friends? Is it physical activity? Is it that it gets you out into nature? So think about what it is you get out of that activity that's not accessible right now, and think about what are some sort of lateral moves. What are some similar things that might meet some of those same needs for you, um, that are available. Um, Talk to your friends, talk to the people around you about what they do, and get some ideas. And maybe what you're doing then is making some connections with other people and finding new ways to connect to a support system by having some of those conversations. But um, self-care doesn't have to be solitary. So these are things that you can do with other people. And if all else fails, if you're really running into some trouble with activities and ideas, number one, student life can help you come up with ideas. But also, um, maybe this is just a time to prioritize sleep. Maybe this is a time to give yourself back a couple hours here and there, or an extra hour a night of sleep, because research tells us that that is going to really help with performance as well. It's not lazy to get more sleep. It is actually really smart and in your best interest as a student.
Cool. Aaron, you have helped reframe self care for me as an intentional activity that really helps to restore a person's soul. And I just think we all need to take time to be intentional in that way amidst this global pandemic. So thanks so much for joining.
Of
And
course, yeah.
I hope we all will continue to be hope ready.